Welcome to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz. This episode, we're going to be looking at a movie and talking about Dancing Rabbit Ecovillage, the basic ideas that it has.
Dancing Rabbit is a group of people who have chosen to live together to try to live out a sustainable lifestyle and to demonstrate that to the wider culture and hopefully inspire people to live more sustainably themselves. We call ourselves an eco-village because our goal is to be a community that's large enough to be a village and that's focused on ecology. And we call ourselves an intentional community because we're a group of people that's working together, and we've chosen intentionally to live together to live out a certain shared value. And so right now there's 30 of us living here at Dancing Rabbit, and we're trying to live sustainably. I mean, in many ways, people live very similarly here to the mainstream world. I mean, we all get up and eat breakfast and brush our teeth and, have our lives and work for a living and, raise our children and things like that. We also do a lot of things very differently here. All of our power comes from renewable energy, so we have a lot of solar power. We share 2 vehicles among 30 people. We grow a lot of our own food in our gardens and fruit trees, things like that. We make decisions together, and we do that by consensus. We build our homes out of natural materials as much as possible: straw bales, cob, reclaimed lumber. We catch our water off of our roofs, so we're getting water, from rainwater. We recycle, we compost our waste. We do as much as we can to live lightly on the earth.
With Thanksgiving, I want to be a living sanctuary for you.
Well, it's been very interesting the last few years to see how global warming has suddenly become much more accepted in the mainstream and in the political world. We've been doing this for 15 years and accepted that global warming was a reality and that a lot of other ecological issues were something that needed to be addressed right away. So it's interesting to see that shift. I mean, we're trying to inspire people. We're trying to be sort of a radical example of what people can do. Take things a step further than just like changing a few light bulbs or inflating your tires. We're looking for how to work with people who really want to make significant lifestyle changes as opposed to just minor shifts in how they're doing things. And at the same time, we also want to help the masses make those little shifts because that adds up to a big difference. So I feel like we're doing both of those things. I feel like our main effect is to inspire people. So even if all you're going to do is change your light bulbs, we're here to inspire you that you can make a difference, that you should make a difference, and that by doing something you can.
Welcome back to Green Time. We just saw the movie Dancing Rabbit Ecovillage, an introduction. I'm host Don Fitz. This episode is titled Dancing Rabbit Ecovillage, its ecological impact. With me I have guests who have been at Dancing Rabbit for a long time. Tony Sirna, you were a founding member of Dancing Rabbit, correct?
Yes, I was one of the original group that started the community.
And Rachel Katz, you have been at Dancing Rabbit for how long?
I'm also part of the founding group.
For 16 years.
That is correct.
And so y'all have put up with each other for 16 years.
Yes.
Well, that's really good. Well, tell me, what is the whole, you mentioned to me before the show that there were some things that have changed since the movie that we just saw was produced.
Yeah, that movie was made a few years ago, and so the main difference is that we've actually doubled in size since then. We now have almost 75 members, including 15 children, and we're growing at a rate, we're doubling almost every 4 or 5 years.
And so Dancing Rabbit is in, well, first of all, tell us where it is. It's in rural Missouri, isn't
Yeah,
it?
we're in northeast Missouri. We're up near Kirksville or Memphis, Missouri. We're in Scotland County, and we own 280 acres there, where we creating a village, basically.
You're creating a village. And so I think one of the things that with 75 people, you're probably up to now about, I'd say, what, 20 or 30 cars?
Well, you might think that, but we only have 3 cars for our whole community right now in our car co-op. We have a ecological agreement that no one will own private vehicles, and so we have a car co-op, and that car co-op has 3 vehicles that we all share. We do a lot of ride sharing, and we have arranged our life to be where we can work from home and within our community, and so we don't have to do as much driving as the average American does.
Well, that is amazing, because whenever I talk to people about car sharing and how you could have an eco-village, co-housing in a city, I say, well, we might have as few as 5 cars for 50 people, just 1 in 10, and people say, well, that's a really nice idea, but it could never work in a rural area. And so, Rachel, what do you think about that? Can you really get by with one car per 25 people?
Well, we have for a long time. Some of it is that because our village is kind of self-encapsulated, and you work there and you play there and you visit your friends there, then you can walk everywhere you need to go on a day-to-day basis. So some of it is that, and some of it is we have a real commitment to human-powered transportation. So when we do need to go somewhere a little bit farther away, we're more inclined to walk or bike there. And when we really need to drive, it's very rare that a car goes with just one person. Very usually.
So there's several people.
Yes,
in
car sharing, carpooling is a really important way that we make that work.
Well, let me just jump ahead to something that we were thinking of discussing later. But what about jobs? Like if you have 75, is it 75 adults or 75 population?
75 people. That includes 15 children.
Okay, so about 60 adults. So do people have jobs outside of Dancing Rabbit that they go to?
Some people do, and for example, we have a woman who works as a nurse at the local hospital, but she's a night nurse, and so she takes the car when other people are unlikely to need it.
Or sometimes she rides her bicycle. She has an electric assist bicycle that she rides the 12 miles into town for her night shift.
Okay, so that can riding 12 miles on a bicycle?
Yeah, but with an electric assist, it makes it a lot easier.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so about how long does that take her to
About an hour.
Yeah, maybe an hour to get in. Yeah.
Okay.
Shorter than some people's commutes, longer than others, certainly.
Right. And so everybody else either works at the Dancing Rabbit, or if they have a job. Are there any other people who have to commute for the job?
We earn income in a lot of different ways. There's people there who earn income within the community. They build homes, or they sell vegetables, or they do healthcare services for other people in the community. We have a bed and breakfast. We teach workshops and have education programs. People go out into the wider community, sometimes for odd jobs, or occasionally they'll go for a month and work on a building project or pick apples at an orchard. And then some people telecommute. They might do websites, they might do fundraising for a nonprofit, they might do translations, or we've had people who teach English as a second language over the internet. So it's a real variety of things.
So people have been able to find enough jobs that basically you can work from home.
Yeah.
And where did you say 60 adults can get by with 3 cars?
Yeah, I think the economic issue can be a struggle for some people, because you don't just walk in and there's a job waiting for you. You need to figure it out. But part of what works in our favor is that when you're growing your own food, and if you own your house, the expenses are extremely low. That people live on usually under $12,000 or $15,000 a year. So the need to actually do a job for income, very few people work full time.
Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned to me is that one of the goals of Dancing Rabbit is to reduce your ecological footprint, or reduce how much environmental impact you have. So could you tell me some of the ways that you've done that?
Sure. Well, the driving is a big part of that. We also have cut our electricity use compared to the average American by over 90%, and then all of our electricity is provided by renewable energy, including wind and solar. And we actually have a system now where we're actually exporting energy to the wider grid because we're producing a surplus right now. We also just consume a lot less. We buy fewer products. We try to reclaim and reuse as much as possible. We recycle everything that we can. Our homes are much smaller than the average American.
That's a really biggie. I think American home has increased, the amount of space per person has increased about 3 times. It was almost 900 square feet in
Right.
I think it's about 300 square feet per person in the 1950s, and now it's about 900 square feet per person.
Right, and that's where Dancing Rabbit is actually at that same level that the U.S. was at in the 1950s. So we have smaller homes, and they're all built in ways to be very energy efficient, so we use a lot less energy for heating and cooling our houses.
So could you tell me something about that electricity, cutting the electricity usage? Because it's, how much did you say you reduced it by?
By over 90%.
90%. I can't imagine doing that, because I mean, I don't use a lot of, I mean, I use electricity for the lights, I use electricity for the refrigerator, but how can you get down to 90% reduction of electricity?
First of all, you might not be the average American.
We do a lot of different things. I mean, obviously light bulbs, we've got all compact fluorescent light bulbs.
Or LED.
Or LED. All of our computers are laptop computers. We buy the most efficient appliances possible. We make sure there's no phantom loads, nothing that's drawing power when it's not in use. We share a lot of our houses, and we have kitchen co-ops that share among 8 people, so we only have 1 refrigerator for those 8 people.
I guess that's a biggie, because a lot of Americans probably are like me. A lot of things in the freezer have been, by the time something's been in the freezer for 2 years, I think it's time to take a look at it.
Right.
But if you're sharing a refrigerator with multiple people, you probably don't do that.
Yeah, we make sure things move through there pretty quick. Yeah.
And so the electricity is really a biggie. But the other thing is heating and cooling. How do you manage to? I mean, what's your impact? Do you have any data on how much less you spend on heating, how much less energy you use on heating and cooling?
Well, we heat all of our homes right now with wood, so it's a little hard to keep track of the exact numbers, but because we basically don't use natural gas or propane to heat with, so we're using 90% less, of those than the average American. We do use propane a little bit for cooking, but we do a lot to keep our homes cool in the summer by opening windows at night and keeping them closed during the day. Our homes are designed with a lot of insulation, passive solar design, thermal mass, so that they stay cool and are easy to heat in the winter. And it, in the end, it's hard to know exactly how much fuel we're burning, but we are, all of our wood comes from waste wood from local pallet mills, lumber yards, and sawmills. So we were able to heat all of our homes in basically a carbon neutral way.
Our homes and our hot water are all either solar or not solar, electric, passive solar, or waste wood.
Right.
Waste wood. Okay. Well, let's hold that thought for a minute while we take a break. But I do want to get back and talk about if wood heating is something which is feasible for an urban area. Let's take a break, and we will be back to Green Time in just a minute. Welcome back to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz. This episode we're talking about Dancing Rabbit, its ecological impact. And with me I have a couple of folks who have been at Dancing Rabbit since it started 16 years ago. I have Rachel Katz and I have Tony Sirna. Now we were just talking about heating, and one of the things that I noticed from one of the movies that I watched about Dancing Rabbit is that people heat with waste wood, which is what you mentioned. And most of the things at Dancing Rabbit could be done in another area. But of course, in the St. Louis and Kansas City areas, you have millions of people, and that's not feasible, I take it, to really keep a house warm with just waste wood if you're talking about a big urban area. Do you have any thoughts about what experiences from Dancing Rabbit might apply in terms of heating?
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest that people should all convert their homes to heat with wood in the city. The air pollution problem would be too much. I mean, we're already starting to feel some of that even in our small village. We're looking at shifting some of our newer buildings to use geothermal, ground source heat pumps to heat, and all powered with renewable energy. There are places in Europe where at a municipal level they actually burn biomass, wood, and other materials to heat on a district heating level, and then you can have systems to make sure that the pollution is kept to a minimum, and you scrub the smokestacks and you collect the the output there. So, but I wouldn't do it on an individual level.
Well, what about passive solar?
Yeah.
Don't you use a lot of passive solar?
I think that can be done anywhere in the world that you need to heat a home. You can design it so that there's more windows facing to the south, that they're given adequate shading so that in the summer you don't get sun in the windows, and in the winter you do. Also, insulation and air tightness are really key. There's standards now. I don't know if you've ever heard of passive house standard, but
yes.
Using that method, you can reduce super insulation and very airtight buildings. You can reduce the energy needs in a building by 80 to 90%.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And so if you reduce it by 80 to 90%, you might still burn some wood, but not very much wood.
Right. Or you could heat it with electricity, or you could heat it with gas. I mean, there's various options.
And isn't it true that small houses are an important part of passive house efficiency? That if you if you have a house which is enormous, instead of 900 square feet per person, if you have 1,800 square feet per person, you don't get very much of a bang from body heat.
Right. It is going to be harder, and we really recommend those smaller houses, as well as making sure that it's just very well insulated, so that it really minimizes the amount of energy that you need in the first place.
Okay, well let's look at the summertime. You said that you cut down on electricity bills, but if the house is that thick, the air conditioners that you use must pull a lot of electricity during the summer.
Air conditioners. It's actually been a new innovation recently. Air conditioners have just begun to pop up at Dancing Rabbit.
Okay.
We do a lot of keeping houses cool in the summer. Tony mentioned a little bit having lots of contact with the earth, or being bermed on some sides to draw on the natural coolth of the earth, and just managing buildings, and even sometimes doing things like having an outdoor kitchen so that you're not pouring heat into your building.
Right. I'm always amazed when people in the summer will turn on the air conditioner in one part of their house and then turn on the oven in another part of their house,
right.
and can't figure out why their electricity bills are so high.
Right, and actually, I mean, there's a lot of natural heat in the summer, and we have big solar cookers that reflect the sun into a smaller space, and do a lot of cooking in the summer that way, so we're not adding any heat to the building. Well, except for when we bring it inside.
Okay, so there are a few air conditioners now.
Yes, there are a few that have been popping up.
Right, but I think everyone has been the small window air conditioner, 1 ton, and using that just to manage humidity and take the edge off in some of the larger buildings, and dealing with some of that hot, humid Missouri weather. We just doing a little bit to make it a little more palatable.
Now I have something in my house in St. Louis, which used to be very widely used in St. Louis, which is the sleeping porch. And I think that everybody has put vinyl siding over their sleeping porches. And of course the sleeping porch is one where you have screens on 3 sides.
Right.
And so you can get by. We have an air conditioner, but we actually try to use it very, very little, because usually we can sleep with just the breeze. Do you have anything like that? Are any of the houses designed so that to maximize the impact of just the wind blowing through?
Yeah, we haven't seen sleeping porches yet, but there are people who choose to sleep outside in the summer, and also all of our buildings are designed with a lot of natural ventilation. I mean, with air conditioners, new homes have been designed without as many windows, whereas older homes were designed that you could open all the windows, get cross breezes, and you could do a lot of natural cooling in that way.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I wanted to mention or that you had mentioned to me that I wanted to bring up, was the issue of water, because most people do not realize how important an impact water is. In some parts of the country, they used water from aquifers actually to fill the toilet, which is the worst waste of water, because once groundwater is used up, it might not refill for 1,000 years, 20,000 years.
True.
So how much water do people at Dancing Rabbit use in comparison to the average American?
Well, the average American uses 130 gallons of water per day, and at Dancing Rabbit we've cut our water use down to under 12 gallons per person per day. And the main way that we do that is by all of our toilets are composting toilets, all of our faucets and fixtures are low flow, and all of the water that we use, or almost all of it, comes from rainwater that we collect off of our roofs, and we store it in cisterns underground, and then we filter that so that it's suitable for all of our domestic uses, including drinking water. And then we're able to, with that low of a water flow, we're able to treat all of our water through natural methods and even reuse it in some cases to water fruit trees or gardens and then release it into the environment.
That's great. Of course, it's actually more than what you just said, because every car, everything that you buy has embodied water in it, in the sense that you have to use water to manufacture it. One little statistic that I remember is that a third of 1 million liters of water are used to manufacture a car.
Right.
Wow.
And so by using fewer cars, you're using less, somewhere along the line of production, there was less water used to manufacture cars.
Right.
One thing that I wanted to ask about was conflict resolution, because I know that a lot of intentional communities might survive for 6 months or a year, and then people just can't stand living with each other anymore. So have you all survived for 16 years being conflict free?
Oh, yes. So people, when they come to us, I think they often look at our environmental lifestyle and say, oh, that looks hard, I don't know if I can do that. But the thing that is actually truly hard is the part about getting along with other people. And I think that's what makes or breaks most communities. And so, yeah, we have conflict over the years, and we have set up systems. Well, we first of all ask everyone to agree when they come to resolve their conflict nonviolently, and then we set up supports for people to do that. We have systems like nonviolent communication or restorative justice circles, and then we have support like having mediators available and people that you can talk to get support in resolving your conflict.
So you do have people trained in mediation or working through conflict without going to the courts or without slugging it out in a fist fight or hitting someone with a frying pan.
They're at least experienced. I don't know if they're all trained.
Right.
Okay, they're experienced.
Right.
It's someone trained them somewhere, even if Tony, what's your thought about that? Do you think that that's worked out over the years?
Yeah, I think that's the reason that Dancing Rabbit has survived, is that we've done a good job of engaging in conflict, not trying to shy away from it, but actually leaning into it and working on it when it comes up and trying to find ways to resolve it so that people can work together and share and cooperate. Because we've really found that community and cooperation and sharing are sort of the secret ingredient in living sustainably. I think it's one of the main ways that we can cut our resource use and still have healthy, happy, vibrant lives, is by sharing so many resources.
Well, let me ask you the pivotal question. Has there ever been a situation where you have to ask somebody to leave the community because they just will not go work with other people?
Yeah, it's a very rare occurrence. It's happened a couple times over the last 16 years, and it's the hardest thing we've ever had to do. It's tragic for everyone involved, but it has been essential for us to be able to take that option when all avenues have been exhausted, and we've tried to resolve things in every way that we can to be able to move on as a community and not be stuck in that dysfunctional place.
I mean, I'm glad you're able to talk about that, because that's really, I think, what a lot of communities have faltered on. Rachel, I'd like to ask you, we only have about a minute and a half left. What are the things which you would like the viewer to take with them, the most important points about Dancing Rabbit?
I think that we are setting a lot of goals for the future of the United States, and for cities and states are making goals about carbon or ecological impact, and they seem like these far off goals, and that at Dancing Rabbit we're showing that you can actually make those changes in your life now and reach those goals now. And not everybody wants to move to an eco-village, and that's fine. It's not the right choice for everyone, but that by making choices in their day-to-day life about their diet, their transportation, their home, and their consumption patterns, that they are able to make a big change in their impact.
I want to ask Tony, we just got a few seconds left. What do you think is the most important thing that you've learned from your experience with Dancing Rabbit?
Well, the thing that I would add to that is that we found that reducing consumption, minimizing usage first before you try and replace with alternative technologies is really the key to making it happen.
Tony and Rachel, I want to thank you very much. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in this episode of Green Time. I hope you take a look at us next week.